create high converting copy for Facebook ads with just a little bit of help from AI. Some background first, as a media buyer running over 7 figures in profitable monthly ad spend, I touch a lot of ads and businesses on a daily basis. And to be frank, one thing that I consistently see is garbage copy. If you're tired of poor engagement and poor conversion rates on your ads, kick back, relax. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to start writing copy that sells. Now, before we even start writing any copy, there's 3 golden rules that we must keep in mind. Now, the first and most important thing to consider is that we need to start with proper research. Before you skip ahead, I know half of you are already thinking to yourselves, yeah, blah, 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 screw you, Roy. I already know how to do research. And that's exactly why your copy isn't converting well. Lesson number 1 is never assume you know what your audience wants. When I'm writing copy for my multi-million-dollar clients, the majority of my time isn't even going towards actually writing the copy. The majority of my time is going towards doing research. But it's not just typical research trying to figure out, what kind of features to sell. The first step to proper research is to get in your ideal customer's head. We need to be answering questions like, what kind of problems do they face? What motivates them? What makes them excited or upset? What keeps them up at night? Is there a solution on the market already? What are the reasons that people are actually buying my product? Why are they passionate about it? Why do they hate it? And there's tons of places we can go to find this research. Look at forums, social media, surveys, your reviews, your competitors' reviews, and you can even ask ChatGPT. The other thing to consider while we're doing our research is we need to keep in mind what type of information is actually helpful and how we present or frame that information when we are writing our copy. Lesson number 2, at the end of the day, love it or hate it, people are selfish. They don't care about what your business is. They don't care about what you're trying to sell. Nobody on TikTok or Facebook is going there specifically to look for your ads. The unfortunate reality is that nobody cares about you. How do we get people not just to care about us, but to be excited and passionate about what we're trying to sell? So excited that they are begging for the opportunity to purchase from us. We make it about them. Instead of focusing our messaging on our business and our product features, let's shift the focus back to the consumer to how we can actually benefit them and improve their overall lives. With our research, let's figure out what kind of problems my target consumers are actually facing. Then, how can we help them solve their problems with our product or service? For this example, I've done some research and I found that my ideal customers are hikers and that most water bottles out there only keep drinks cold for a few hours max. So you end up with hot and disgusting water after a few hours that nobody wants to drink. If I was trying to sell you a water bottle with features like, oh yeah, this is triple insulated, you tell me to get lost. You don't care. But what if I shift the focus and told you that this water bottle will keep your drinks cold all day long in the desert, so you'll always have that refreshing sip to keep you going no matter how hot the sun is or how tough the terrain or challenge. You're much more likely to actually care, right? Because there's something in it for you. You benefit from it. Another example from Apple back in the days, releasing the original iPod. Imagine Steve Jobs going on that stage and saying, yeah, this new iPod has 1 gigabyte of storage. He would have been laughed off the stage. 1 gigabyte of storage means nothing to 99% of people out there. Instead though, he said 1,000 songs in your pocket. The feature is 1 gigabyte of storage, but the benefit of having that feature is that we can now have 1,000 songs in our pocket all at once, right? So you can see how that's much more likely to get someone excited and passionate about your product or service. So always keep our copy and our research framed around how we can actually benefit the end consumer. And when we're thinking about this consumer that we're speaking towards, we also need to get very specific and focus on selling one thing by presenting one big idea to solve one problem for one person with one specific solution. But Roy, anyone can buy my water bottle. I want everyone to buy it, not just one person. Problem here is that when you try to sell to everybody, you end up selling to nobody. Your copy ends up becoming too generic, too broad, or maybe even confusing because they're trying to message so many different things at once. Your ideal customers thus don't feel like your copy is geared towards them, so you lose that focus and connection with the people who are actually most likely to buy your products. By focusing on one very specific person with a very specific subset of problems, we'll be able to create a more personal connection through more clear and relevant information. And as you're going all through this, you'll want to read it out loud. It should sound natural, as if you are speaking to someone literally right in front of you. Your target should feel like your copy is written specifically for them. there. So let's jump into ChatGPT real quick and we can see how to quickly do some research. To start off, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, what are some problems that my product helps to solve? In this example, we're using a protein powder and ChatGPT spits out 5 problems that we can start to address. These 5 problems are what we would call messaging angles or reasons to buy. And the idea here is that someone suffering from any one of these problems can use my product to help actually solve that problem and overcome it. And the goal here is that we're looking to hone in on one major problem. Again, we want to get very specific here. So we're going to be choosing one of these that's the biggest potential impact for us. Realistically, we could move forward with any single one of these problems and any single one of these reasons to buy and see success with enough testing. And then as we look to scale over time, we'll definitely want to test into each of these different problems to identify how we can continue to reach net new prospects. But for this example, I'm just going to focus on one of these for now. So I'll want to cross-reference this information to what we were talking about earlier, right? The reviews, the forums, the comments, surveys, all that kind of stuff, and see which one of these problems is the most common, the most talked about, and at the end of the day is resulting in the most passionate of consumers.
For this example, I want to dive a bit deeper into protein deficiency, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to expand on that specific problem and give me a bit more information and context. Again, I'm trying to get into my ideal customer's head, so I want to learn as much as humanly possible about them.
I get some more info, not too shabby, but let's take it even a step deeper. Remember, we want to get specific and speak to one person, right? So now I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me 3 ideal customer personas that would want to purchase protein powder to help solve the problem that we've identified. And it gives us 3 really strong options to expand upon.
Based on the research that I've done and the types of consumers that I know typically resonate best with my brand, I'm going to go ahead with the first option here, busy professional.
Now, let's say I also have some more data on hand that I want to use. Let's say I know that the majority of people that are actively purchasing my product are men between the ages of 35 to 45. We can get even more granular here and specify even further. So then, as the last part of my research, I'm just going to ask for a sales letter. A sales letter is essentially another way for us to get even deeper in our target customer's shoes. But now that we have this sales letter, we have pretty much all of the information we need to start writing some copy. So now that we have an understanding of the basics, we know how to research, we know how to position ourselves, we know we need to be speaking towards one specific person, how do we actually start writing some copy? Now, obviously, this process is going to differ slightly depending on what type of copy you're actually trying to write. But for video scripts, statics, primary copy, headlines, all that kind of stuff, I'll show you a few different types of frameworks you can use for any one of these. And then we'll dive into a quick example of actually writing some primary copy. But obviously, you can use all of these same ideas for whatever copy you might actually need. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's start off with some proven selling frameworks, and we can then customize them to fit our specific needs. The 3 selling frameworks that I personally see the most success with, first off, PASS, problem, agitate, solution. The second one is AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. Lastly, we have BAB, before, after, bridge. So let's pick one of the primary reasons to buy based off of our initial research and use one of the selling formulas that best fits. As we're starting to write this copy, one thing to keep in mind is that the hook, which is the first few words or the first sentence of your copy, is by far the most important part. The goal of your hook is to simply stop the scroll. When you're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, you're making split-second decisions about which pieces of content you're consuming. And most of the time, it's completely unconsciously. You're not even really thinking about it. So if something doesn't immediately catch your eye or pique your interest, you're already on to the next piece of content and you've completely forgotten about what you just saw 5 seconds ago, right? So if we can't even stop the scroll, we already lost them. Everything else we do is completely pointless.
So let's start putting together some primary copy. I'm going to stick to the protein powder example based on the research that we did earlier. I'm also going to use the problem, agitate, solution formula here. So I've identified the target persona, the problem, and the benefit that I want to focus on within this specific copy variation. Now, I'm going to go back to ChatGPT to help out here. Feel free to pause to read deeper into my prompt, but I'm basically looking to piece together my favorite ideas that ChatGPT is spitting out into a single cohesive journey. And I get some really strong ideas here that I can now use. So again, we always need to start off with a scroll stopping and engaging hook. I typically default to questions, bold statements, or crazy statistics within my hooks because they oftentimes are really the best at getting people to stop and question their current situation. So now I have 5 solid hooks that I can take some inspiration from. I think I like the direction that this one is taking the most. I just think it needs a little bit more context. So I'm going to first put that in here. I think I like the word sluggish here as well because it also helps you visualize it a little bit more. We've all had those days where we just feel super sluggish and slow and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to change this. Are you tired of feeling sluggish, and unproductive all day. Got a solid foundation from ChatGPT. We're just adding a little bit on top of it to make it a little bit better. And again, my big goal here is to first stop the scroll, and then second, make them question their current situation. Someone who is currently experiencing this problem is likely going to see this, stop, and question their current situation. Yeah, I do feel kind of tired all the time. I used to be so energetic and productive. What's wrong, and how can I fix this problem of mine? So we got them hooked. The next step in the PASS formula is to agitate this problem even further. Now remember, we're also going to have to connect this problem to our actual product at some point. So we also need some type of a bridge there that helps readers connect the dots. Now, as I'm looking to agitate this problem even further, there's a few ideas here that I really like. The first one is that it's super easy to skip meals and miss out on the nutrients your body needs. I also really like this idea of comparing our solution to this problem to another solution, and then we can talk about why our solution is better than the alternative. So I added a bit more context here. I'm really agitating the problem, connecting it a little bit better to the busy professional's persona by mentioning the work schedule, and then also tying the initial problem to the product that I'm about to start to introduce. So now looking at the solution, all of these are pretty similar, but I think I like this idea the most. Now I'm going to want to introduce our brand name here. So instead of saying our protein powder, I'm just going to say a hypothetical brand name for this. So let's just call it Buff Protein. And then I'm going to clean this up a little bit because it doesn't seem too convincing yet. This part specifically is pretty self-explanatory. So I'm just going to delete that. I'm just going to try to connect these. Buff Protein is designed to keep you energized and focused without the hassle. Skip the caffeine crashes from coffee and energy drinks so you can feel your best all day long. Now we technically have the problem agitate solution formula here, but I do want to add one more sentence here that's a close. That's to try to get the sale, right? I want someone to take action right now from this. So I'm going to add one or two sentences. Don't let protein deficiency hold you back. Unlock your full potential with Buff Protein before we sell out again. Trying to add a little bit of urgency and social proof here. And I'm going to sweeten the pot even more here towards the end. I want them to take action right now. Now, obviously, if I spent a bit more time here, I'm sure I could spruce this up a bit, make it look even nicer. Obviously, I might want to add some emojis into here, but you get the general framework and idea of how I'm trying to put all this together. From here, I might test a few different personas against each other. I might test a few different problems against each other. And then naturally, over time, we'll be able to figure out what types of people actually engage with and love just my products or services. If you start testing into this and it's not working, obviously your first biggest impact is to start testing different hooks, right? So instead of a question, maybe we start with a bold statistic. I can start to test into different hooks, different frameworks. You're going to need to constantly be testing and iterating on this, right? But over time, as you start to test and find new winners, you'll be able to get a better understanding of the types of consumers that actually are passionate about your product or service. And then over time, you can integrate some of that messaging back into your website, back into your creative and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you for watching the video. Hope you guys learned something new today. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Check out my other videos, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy.